In just over 20 minutes, we'll be looking at the role of the removal firm and an estate agent when you move house. That's in Job Bank, just after midday. Now on to MI10 are on the road again, working their way round a maze. That will be after they've deciphered part 2 of Pascal's triangle.
Where we spend the next 50 minutes with Shirley Bassey. A look now at programmes for Saturday night here on BBC Two. At 7:35, the final part of Dickens' Our Mutual Friend, and Lizzie is distraught at the death of Eugene Rippon. At 8:30, a simple yet unanswerable question: is there a God? A major investigation led by Magnus Magnusson.
But when we talk about God, do we just mean a modern version, a super-duper maxi version of Tlaloc?
In the natural world next week, we travel to a remote Pacific island where the bizarre inhabitants of a mysterious lake include a gigantic mass of jellyfish, and vast caves are haunted by whip scorpions, giant crickets and bats. The Lost World of the Medusa in the natural world at 7:45 next Sunday.
A major television first for this Christmas on BBC Two. Ingmar Bergman's fantasy of light and colour, Fanny and Alexander. The setting is Sweden at the turn of the century, in the happy, rumbustious and bohemian household of the Ekdahl family, who are having their Christmas party. It's a film about the magic and mystery of childhood and about the love of life. Ingmar Bergman's Fanny and Alexander, a film for Christmas on BBC Two.
A rather different prospect for those dear ladies of Stacton Trestle on 2 in 45 minutes, as Councillor Evadne Hinge is finally elected mayor. Now here's Ludovic Kennedy and his guests with Did You See?
A new series of Play of the Week returns in the autumn. Harold Pinter's play, Langriche, Go Down, tells of the relationship between a young German student and two once prosperous sisters.
We had it once. At least Dada had it. But I'm afraid we've come down in the world considerably. Since those palmy days.
I'm sorry, palmy days?
Oh, you know, when we were well-to-do.
The Lost Boys trilogy stars Ian Holm as J.M. Barrie, the writer whose friendship with a group of boys was the inspiration of his successful play Peter Pan.
I could teach you to write again, if you'd like me to.
Capital idea. You do the writing, I'll do the thinking.
I'm not a very fast writer, mind you.
Well, I'm not a very fast thinker, so we should make a terrific team. Let's see, where was it?
Leonard Rossiter stars in Fearless Frank, the story of a middle-aged man who decides to write his memoirs, a book that tells of a life lived to the full.
How old are you, Frank?
16.
16? Why, that's only a little older than I am. And yet there's something so manly about you, even though you're so short.
Yes, I know I'm small, Jessie, and ugly.
Not really ugly, Frank.
But I mean to be a great man, Jessie. I feel I have a greatness in me, Jessie.
Play of the Week, this autumn, here on 2.
And the first of those plays, Langrish Go Down, is next Wednesday at 9:25. Now on to A.J.P. Taylor looks at cotton, which was the fabric of an age. Well, now the late news on 2, which includes a special report on today's Liberal Party Assembly at Southport. It's just after 11:50.
The Peugeot-Chrysler merger, the British unions meet the French managers, and they like what they hear. Tough cookies was the engineering union's assessment of the 6-man French management team. They met for 2 hours of talks in London this evening. But the significance of the encounter, held in advance of any official government go-ahead for the takeover, seems to be in its good humour and the moderation of union opposition to the deal. The film Grease.
BBC Two. Now Jonathan Dimbleby offers his personal view of the play Julius Caesar and puts Shakespeare in perspective.
And from mastermind to masterclass here on BBC Two, given by the world-famous tenor Luciano Pavarotti.
Tonight's programme can be seen again on Sunday afternoon at 2:50 here on BBC Two. Tomorrow, Your Life in Their Hands returns with a new series and opens with the topical subject of liver transplants as Susan Smith undergoes a life-saving operation.
Susan is lucky. The shortage of donor livers means that half the patients waiting for a transplant die before a liver becomes available. At 8:20 in the morning, Professor Khan starts. Susan's transplant will be the 15th he's done in the past year.
The first ever televised liver transplant in Your Life in Their Hands tomorrow at 9:30 on BBC Two. And now on BBC Two, the first part of a specially recorded concert from the Theatre Royal Bury St Edmunds, featuring the legendary musicians from New Orleans, the Preservation Hall Jazz Band.
A dramatic story set against a background of romance and fear in Crete. A new series, Who Pays the Ferryman, starts next Monday at 9 here on 2. And now on BBC Two, Ronald Eyre continues to follow man's search for a meaning to his existence. In 10 minutes, this week's Open Door programme has been made by the British Field Sports Society and the Masters of the Foxhounds Association, who present their own view on hunting the wild fox. First, Peter Woods with the late news on 2.
Programmes featuring jazz musicians and their music. At 8:20, a concert recorded at the Bath International Festival starring Loose Tubes, one of the most innovative of young British orchestras whose members include classical, pop and full-time jazz musicians. Jazz Sounds 86 at 9:15 features performances from the 5 finalists in the Young Jazz Band competition, which attracted over 90 entries. At 11, a 31-piece orchestra put together by Rolling Stones drummer Charlie Watts plays one of its occasional concerts in a celebration of jazz. Sven Klang's quintet at midnight is the highly acclaimed Swedish film which follows the fortunes of a group gigging in small towns in the 1950s. And this is how those programmes fit into a whole evening of jazz starting at 7:25 tonight on BBC Two.
Now on to News View with Jan Leeming and Moira Stewart.
The headlines tonight. Scottish miners fight to save their pit from fire. 49 people are killed as a Brazilian airliner crashes in Africa. And England's cricketers continue their winning ways against West Indies.
The headlines of the week: the death of Lord Stockton, the fire tragedy in Puerto Rico, and the safe return of Samantha Ettridge.
Good evening. All that most people will need to know about Mr. Healy's usual half-yearly budget is that a single man gets a rebate of £20 at the end of next month and an extra 65 pence a week from then on. A married man gets a £36 rebate and then a tax reduction of round about £1 a week in the future.
The theme music for Who Pays the Ferryman is available on a BBC single at record shops.